Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today, I have the pleasure to interview the Director of Sport and Entertainment Division for One Sotheby's, Ben Moss. Ben is a top producer with over $112 million in current listings. During the interview, we learned how Ben has broken into the luxury market and the entertainment and sports industry, working with those high earners, entertainers, and athletes. What does it take to really break into that luxury market? He talks about three very important things. Number one, having a system in your business, not only to grow, but automate your practice. He talks about the importance of having a business plan where you not only have the business plan, but you can also execute and review it in a consistent basis. And finally, among the many things we learn from Ben, he talks about having a referral network, key to the success in his business. The insights you're about to hear from Ben are just amazing. A very short but very dense interview that you can miss. Without further ado, I leave you with the Director of the Sport and Entertainment Division for One Sotheby's and top producer, Ben Moss. Make it a very productive day. Take care, guys.
This week's featured properties are a custom-designed place in Lazy Bee Ranch, located at 5510 Southwest 70 Avenue, Davie, Florida. This residence features 5-bedroom, 4.5-bathroom, huge open floor plan, and a resort-like pool with expansive summer kitchen, indoor-outdoor fireplaces. The main residence sets on a pond and includes top finishes like Blue Louis, Blue Macauba, and Royal Oyster marbles. Full Crestron Lutron AV system with 20 cameras and a separate structure for 12-car garage with 1,800 square feet, barn with 3 stalls and guest groomers quarters, and a luxurious lifestyle, security, and tranquility of nature residency. The resort, located at 9405 Old Cutler Lane, Coral Gables, Florida, is part of an exclusive community called Journey's End. Expansive master suite with sitting room and private balcony overlooks manicured grounds, pool, 10-person spa, babbling brook, and koi pond. The 7-bedroom, 7.5 bathrooms house, 28 foot, has a slip for a 40-foot boat, media room, sunroom, 2 wet bars, lounge, open kitchen, billiards room, family room, elevator, and private lawn bordered by a tropical canal leading to Biscayne Bay. For more information, contact top producer Ben Moss at 305-793-4783.
Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today, I have the true pleasure to interview Ben Moss. Ben, thank you very much for coming.
I appreciate
Ben is thank you very much, the Managing Director for the Sports and Entertainment Division for One Sotheby's. So it's a true pleasure, and thank you for having me in your beautiful offices in Coral Gables.
I appreciate the opportunity to interview with you. Yeah.
Great job, Maggie, did with the offices.
Maya's the best.
She
really is, in every respect.
A lot of respect for Maya. You're right. So let's get started.
All right.
What's your background? Why real estate, and how long have you been doing? How long have you been in the business?
I originally wanted to be a developer.
Okay.
Probably a lot of people do. And went to one of those real estate investment seminars.
Okay.
When I was in college, started knocking on doors
Okay.
and flipped a house almost by mistake. Made
So
some
you
money.
did?
Yeah, made some money, and I said, man, this is a lot of money for at the time. What I didn't realize at the closing table, the guy that I flipped it to flipped it to somebody else, who flipped it to somebody else.
Okay.
So there were a lot of people in the closing room, and I made the least money. But it was a great experience because I learned this is a very entrepreneurial business, and you know, I made a mistake because I didn't make enough money, but I was able to still get myself more than I was making at the University of Miami Library at the time.
Okay,
so I was very happy.
And you mentioned to me, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me that you were in the commercial real estate.
Yeah. So after college, I got into commercial real estate. I was with a company called Taylor and Mathis.
Of course, a huge
And,
company.
and landlord leasing, and had a great mentor. Loved it. Got into residential real estate almost by mistake, but I did that for 5 years.
For 5 years.
For
And
5
how
years.
do you make the transition? What did you learn from commercial that helped you in the transition into residential real estate? Because I want to say something right now that I didn't mention at the beginning. Right now, you have over 30 listings, right? Valued at $112 million. Okay,
I gotta sell those, but yeah, I gotta sell those.
You gotta sell them, but it's over $100 million in listings right now. Over 30. You were the luxury market. And how that knowledge that you acquire from commercial real estate, you were able to capitalize and bring it into residential real estate.
Yeah, in the commercial real estate world, you're dealing with institutional asset managers. At least I was on the landlord side. So, some managers had me report to them every week what was happening, and I hated Fridays for certain reasons because I had these Friday flashes that I had to provide for these.
But that's structure.
But it was structure, and I had to make the phone calls, and I had to do things to provide the information to the institutional client. MetLife.
Right.
If you don't mess around with MetLife, you give them what they want. Otherwise, they fire you. They can move on to the next one. So, a lot of the things that I learned in the commercial side, the structure, the reporting, have kind of helped me translate a lot of what I hope to be as a true professional in this business on the residential side, which I think, frankly, is lacking a lot of times.
So you brought the systems from commercial into residential.
Yeah, I kind of created my own systems in the residential side,
Mm-hmm.
but the idea that there have to be systems in place, that you have to communicate, you have to put it in writing, I create my own market analysis. I don't use the CMA that they use on the MLS. I do my own. It takes longer. I create it on Excel, but I really have to think. I write my own analysis out, and by the time I've done that, I really know the market and know the property and the sub-market that I'm in.
Now, off camera, you were mentioning something extremely important, and I asked you, how do a person like you or anybody else tap into that luxury market, working with athletes, with entertainment figures, business, multi-million-dollar companies, clients of yours own, and you talk about investing money and time and also working with rentals. Can you tell me a little bit about how do you get into that luxury market and get to work with those very high net worth individuals?
Well, that's a good question. I believe you have to have a niche. You have to kind of have a plan, know what you're doing. So I have two niches. One is the luxury residential market, because I feel like my marketing plan and my skill set is well developed for that. And then also the sports and entertainment side. And they do cross over, but not always. So on the sports entertainment side, I was telling you off camera, I do a ton of rentals. People have no idea. People have no idea how many rentals I do, and my team does, because that's what helps build the relationships. You can't just cherry pick, especially when you're dealing with business managers and people that are controlling some of these people. And they're young. A lot of them are young athletes. They're very hard to deal with. So a lot of times,
a little bit of ego.
A little bit of ego. They don't know. There's no accountability. They don't show up on time for showings. They don't. The whole gamut. You can understand. And so, but there's a great crossover, and then as you develop those relationships, as long as some of them are loyal to you, then it pays off, because a lot of them will sign their second, third contracts. Then they'll buy the big house they've saved up. And what I like to do is help them all around the country. So I don't just help them here in South Florida, but I help them with their off-season rental in Arizona. I help their mom buy a house or build a house in Mobile, Alabama. They want to build a house in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've got my team and my structure with brokers and builders all around the country, and I can advise them. And so I get a true passion out of advising them to help make the right long-term decisions so that they don't end up broke. Do you finance a deal over 5 years or over 30 years? Well, what's your contract? Do you have a 5-year contract?
Very interesting.
Interest only. There's a lot of things that go into it. How far away from the facility? In the luxury market, I've been blessed that my sphere of influence, the people that I associate with for the most part, are people that own businesses that that are buying luxury property. But I also make it a point to always network and always not network in the cheesy sense of the word, but just be out, be social. I like relationships. I like dealing with people. So it's just something that comes naturally.
You mentioned two very important things. Number one, you have a team that helps you through the process, okay?
And they're awesome.
Through building the relationship. And number two, you mentioned off camera that if you have to go to another city and meet and have dinner with a business manager, can you elaborate on that? You do that. You make that monetary investment to build that relationship, network that you make.
Yeah, especially in the sports side, those people are busy, and sometimes, you kind of have to go to them.
Exactly.
So, one example is I went to Nashville, Tennessee, not too long ago. I, flew there, stayed in the hotel, only to take out a sports agent to dinner, because he's somebody that sends me a lot of business, and that is my way of thanking him and having that personal connection. He can look in my eyes and know that I'm the real deal. I'm not a shyster. I'm going to continue building that relationship with him. He can call me for a rental for his client, for a 3-month rental or a $10 million sale. And he knows that I'm going to treat the client the same way. So so you have to get out. And I always have, whenever I travel, it's kind of a challenge. I want to have fun, but I want to do business, and good things happen. It's amazing I think you just put it out there and good things happen, but it's strategic. I'm not just showing up.
And very important for the agents that are listening to the interview or watching the interview right now, you said you want to have fun, but also if you have the opportunity to do business, you take advantage of that opportunity. You mentioned off camera one of the cases when you went skiing, right?
Yeah.
And then somebody
so I went to Park City earlier this year
okay.
on a Friday. I had a meeting at Friday at like 4 o'clock. After the meeting, I went right to the ski place, got my skis for the next day.
Okay.
Was out there on the mountain, skied until 4. It was the NFL playoffs were on, so I went to the bar by my hotel, watched 2 NFL games, got up the next morning and went home.
Okay.
And it was great because I just got a call last night, actually, as I was mentioning to you off camera. One of those properties is now under contract. Okay. And so, that was a successful trip because I got 3 listings there.
3 listings.
Yeah, 3 listings.
That's what some of my notes here, that it provides you with supplemental.
Yeah, good supplemental income.
Those referral networks that you're building right now.
Exactly. I think one of the best decisions that I've ever made was to really network with other realtors. And realtors
they're not your competition.
They're not competition.
Very good.
I think there are, you always have to watch your back in life, but in this business there are a lot of good people, and if you can kind of affiliate with them, and it doesn't matter what company they're with. I don't care if they're with Berkshire Hathaway or Telus Properties or Sotheby's or Corcoran. It doesn't matter. What I care about is the individual on the other side. And actually, my biggest sale ever was a pretty nice sale on Miami Beach last year, and that was referred to me by a broker in the Hamptons in New York, who I had referred a client to probably 5 years ago. So I am actively engaged in my broker
How
network.
big that was sale? I'm sorry to interrupt you, and that's very important. How big was that sale?
$25 million.
$25 million.
Yeah.
And you were talking to me how you had to structure that. But understand, this came from a relationship built 5 years ago where you were giving something to the other agent, not expecting anything in return. And then 5 years later, you have a $25 million sale.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, networking with realtors in other markets. I'm marketing my properties to them, but I'm also picking up the phone and saying, hey, how are you doing? Or when I'm in New York, hey, do you want to get together for a coffee or lunch? It's just relationships. So I'm a big believer in that too.
Definitely. Here's the big difference. Most people just want the quick sale, right? I go to New York, I visit you, send me business.
Yeah.
You don't send me business, all right, I don't call you anymore.
Right.
But understand, selling is not an event, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
Where you get to know me, you're aware of who I am, then you become educator, how valuable I am to you in Miami. Yeah. And then, only then, after that process, we go through that process, then you take action and send me business.
Yeah, right? And I think a lot of the business that I'm not somebody who's ever built my career farming certain geographic areas. That's not a bad business model in the brokerage world. That's a good business model, and I'm trying to focus a little bit more on doing some of that. But up to now, what I've really done is nurture relationships, and I think, how do you do that? Well, the way I approach relationships is, how can I help somebody? It's almost like the Keith Ferrazzi Never Eat Alone mentality. If you've read that book, but I read that book and it resonated with me because that's kind of how I've been approaching business always, is how can I connect people? And I'm not keeping score. I mean, sometimes things come around. I feel like if you put good things out there, good things come back. In life, in relationships, in business, it's all one and the same.
When we were in our coaching system, we say, it's give value. It's valuable information. The more value you put out there, it will come back to you. Not in different ways. It will come back to you financially, but you need to become that expert first. You become an expert, then you can promote as an expert, and then you can show the people that you're an expert that can bring value to them. Very, very important point. So you have a broker network. I have in my notes. You also do a lot of, since you work with such a high-end properties, you sometimes have to be a little bit creative. Yeah. And you mentioned something, one of your biggest sales in Miami, a $25 million sale. Can you explain a little bit of how you have to create?
That's what I like about this business versus the landlord leasing business on the commercial side. All those deals are very structured. You can only give a certain amount of tenant improvement dollars on a 5-year lease term, for instance. On the residential side, you're dealing with very sophisticated people at these levels. So on that sale, we were $5 million apart. And $5 million is a lot, but it's not that much.
Well, $5 million is a very nice house in Miami.
Right, but when you had a $25 million listing, I knew it
for that type of client,
enough.
It's not.
And it was a unique property. I knew we were close enough. So I racked my brain for like a good day or two trying to figure out how can I put this together. I can't lose this deal. I mean, this is huge, obviously. So I ended up being able to convince the buyer not to buy the real property, which is how most
Okay,
transactions are
right.
done, but this property was owned in an offshore corporation. And I knew that if I could, and I talked to some tax people, and then approached the buyer and said, look, and I approached my seller too. I had to convince my seller first.
Very interesting. Very pay attention. This is very interesting.
Take a five. He wouldn't negotiate at all.
Your seller,
The
your
seller
client.
would not negotiate.
Right. $25 million.
25 million. That's what it's listed for. That's what I'm going to sell it for. I said, okay, fair enough. But if I can bring you a $20 million offer where you pay no capital gains, it's the same thing as getting a $25 million sale.
Great
And
thinking.
he thought about that, and he ultimately had to concede because I was right. and it made sense for the buyer because the buyer was only paying $20 million.
Right.
But it depends from which viewpoint. So I
Right.
still think of it as a $25 million sale.
Of course.
The buyer thinks of it as a $20 million sale.
Right.
But ultimately, I was able to save my client based on his tax, or his basis in the property,
Right.
the amount equivalent to $5 million in capital gains taxes.
Imagine.
And it was done legally above board. I mean, there
course.
were attorneys and high-end tax people involved, and we got all the opinions and justifications for doing the deal that way, and it worked out. So yeah, I mean, it just came to me in a moment of stillness, and I had to rack my brain though a little bit for it, and it came.
But that's a key point. And sometimes, and to close those type of transactions, sometimes you need to be very creative, help the buyer, help the seller, and everybody involved. Now, let me ask you a question. Any book that you would recommend our audience that you think would be of value to them? And I know you're a reader like me, so
I don't read enough. I don't read as much as I would like to.
Okay.
It's usually like 20 minutes when I'm falling asleep and the book falls on my face, and then I don't remember what I read, so I have to start again the night before, the night after. But I mentioned Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone, and the title put me off for a while.
Well, it's a great book.
But it's a great book,
Right.
and I definitely recommend that one. Think and Grow Rich by
Okay.
Napoleon Hill really resonated to me because
Classic.
I believe in energy, and I believe in what you put out there, and when you can kind of feel something, not just think about your goals, but feel your goals.
Right.
It's amazing how they happen. And that's one thing I got from that book. And also know what your goals are. Go through them every day.
Right.
And your
Every single
affirmations,
day.
right?
We talk about that, and I always show my little paper right here on how.
Oh, you've got them written down?
Every
Nice.
single day, and it's just so amazing. And here it is, every single day in coaching, which you teach everybody.
This is not scripted, by the way.
It's
This
not.
is-
Oh, look.
No, I'm saying, but like our exchange right here, like I didn't know
the
you
date,
had your goals.
6/19, and it teaches, it trains your brain to look to tell your brain what to look for. It's just reality. So
Yeah,
very,
so that's another book. Obviously, Millionaire Real Estate Agent
yes,
by Gary
very
Keller.
good by Gary Keller. Yes.
I only read it a couple years ago. I wish somebody had told me to read that
very good
10
book.
years ago when I was first getting started.
What about agents? What do you think are the characteristics that makes a very, very good real estate agent?
Well, I think there's a lot of things because we have to juggle a lot of different skill sets, which is what I really love. But I think the most important thing is you have to figure out why are you in this business. You got to love it. You got to have a passion because
The why.
Yeah, if you don't figure out the why and why you're doing it, and if it's money, then there's money in everything.
Right.
So it's not about the money. I think it's about the passion, and so once you've kind of figured that part out, then I think obviously you have to be organized because you have to market properties, you have to bring in business. In the case of people that have a team, you have to kind of feed the team, keep them energized and engaged. You have to have high energy because we work long days and 7 days a week. You have to know when to pull the plug and not be working and spend time with your family, because success to me isn't about how much money you make or how many deals you close. It's about, hey, I'd rather make less money and spend more time with my family.
Exactly.
And so it's just keeping it all in balance. And I think that's probably the main thing is, if I had to pick one thing, it would be organization, because you have to keep everything in balance and your business in balance as well. So
key, it's the beautiful thing about organization, it's time, right? And we all have the same 24 hours, 7 days a week. Now, the difference between the people that make $100,000 and $100 million a year, it's about the activities, right? It's about organizing and leveraging. You mentioned your team. We can do it alone, and you have a team for that. Organizing your team, delegating so you can replicate. One thing that I learned a long time ago, my previous coach, I always had coaches. People, I think it's much easier to ask who can help me instead of asking how can I do it. Right? It's much easier. And one of my first coaches taught me how to sell one-to-one.
Okay.
Right? And that was good. But when I didn't do it, I didn't get any results. Okay. Right? So it's just I couldn't leverage myself. Now, one of my mentors taught me the difference between selling one-to-one and one-to-many. That's the beauty and how you can automate yourself, replicate yourself through a team.
Right.
So that's key in our business. So any failure that stands out from your career, from your business, from all these years doing real estate, what did you learn from that, and how do you apply the learning lessons in today's business?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're not evolving if you're not failing.
Right.
So I think failure is a good thing as long as you don't hold on to it, you let it go, and you realize there's a lesson here from that. So yeah, I've had lots of failures. One was a huge deal I was cut out of because I trusted the seller to pay a commission for an unlisted property, and I was kind of bringing the buyer, and then I came to find out later the buyer had bought the property, and so I said, okay, shame on me. I should have protected myself. I could also look back at starting a company with an old business partner, and that was great. We both evolved from it, and I learned I don't want to run a small business anymore. I'm stretching myself too thin. What I enjoy doing is selling and bringing in business and marketing. I just want to be a realtor. I don't want to be a broker running an office and doing QuickBooks on the side and managing a bunch of people.
Yeah, discovering exactly the why and what you want to do.
Yeah. Right? So just going through that process and realizing, and I wouldn't change anything because I am, I appreciate where I am now and what I have going on right now because of the things that I've gone through to help me get here. So
now, what tools do you use to organize yourself?
As far as technology tools?
Technology or any methods that you use in your business to keep yourself organized.
Well, my assistant would probably rattle off like a million different things. We have sheets and lists for everything.
Okay.
And obviously we have Dropbox. We share everything together in real time. Actually, I'm proud to say this with Sotheby's. There's a great system out there called App Files.
Yes.
And I was using that before.
Okay.
And Sotheby's is now using that. I kind of introduced that humbly. I want to say introduced that to Sotheby's and said, you guys have to use this. I mean, it revolutionized my business. I thought that was the cleanest way, so it's awesome. I mean, I have it on my phone, my iPad, my tablet, my computer.
Very good to know.
In real time, everything is there. So that has been by far the number one technology tool to keep me organized.
And what advice would you give a new agent that is getting started in the business? Let's say, Ben, you've been very successful. I'm new in the business. Just got my real estate license. What are the key two or three things that I should do to become as successful as you are?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, I have so much more that I want to achieve. I mean, I'm still the same way a new agent is growing from this to this. I'm growing from this to this, in the same way. And so I'm always trying to find new things. But for somebody brand new in the industry, I would say, find a mentor, find maybe a team that they can join, that they can start getting some business from. Because as with me, I have a lot more deals than I can handle. I'm blessed to have that going on right now. So I have to leverage. I have to be able to bring people in. And I know enough to know that they don't need to work with me. They just want to work with a certain level of service. So if I can train my team to kind of do things the way I do it, they just want professional service at the end of the day, and accountability, and people that are trustworthy as well. So I would say find a mentor if you can, and write a business plan. And be specific. What are the 3 or 4 ways that you're going to bring in business? And be specific about them. And how much money are you going to spend? And how much time are you going to give those things? And I think a lot of people think they know their business plan in their head, but when you write it down,
you have to write it down.
Write it
Exactly.
down.
Now the final question before we go, because I know you're a busy person. One piece of advice for an experienced agent.
Well, I would say if there's listen, in the luxury side, we deal with a lot of egos.
Okay.
And I would say within the luxury real estate market, there are, you run across realtors who they're very successful, they make a lot of money. I don't know how balanced their lives are in some cases, because I would look at them and say probably there's some balance missing. But I would say if we could all just remove egos, we don't need more egos in a transaction.
You have a luxury buyer and a luxury seller.
Buyer and a seller, yeah. So let's just come together and find a way to make it happen. And I would say, that I say kind of half kidding, but it's true. The other thing really I would say is focus more on the referral network, because the referrals for me have brought me business in South Florida, listings and buyers, and have brought me a lot of passive income or supplemental income that I wasn't forecasting for the year because of business that I've helped generate for them. And it's amazing. I mean, it's a great network to have. So build that referral network.
Ben, it's been a short interview, but what a great insights you've given us. I really appreciate the time. The footnotes we're going to put in our site are going to be unbelievable.
Good.
I truly appreciate the time.
No, I appreciate you having me on. It's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you for having us in your beautiful Sotheby's offices in Coral Gables.
Anytime.
Thank you very much. Till the next episode, make it a very, very productive day. Take care, guys.